first guest is running for Congress in Florida's 13th congressional district. She's been on here before. She's recently filed a complaint with the federal Election Commission over Twitter's refusal to verify her account while giving her the blue check mark to her opponent, Democratic Congressman Charlie Crist. She claims basically that amounts to a contribution to Crist. Well, let's break this down with Anna Polina Luna. Welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me back on.
Okay, so here's my question. You're basically, and I'll let you state it, but are you just saying that the check mark is the big issue you have with Twitter right now, and the fact that you don't have one and he does?
So basically the issue and why we filed is because the Twitter Corporation is providing a service to Charlie Crist, which would be the verification that's allowing him to not only fundraise, but it's also changing the algorithms for higher visibility while not providing that same service towards myself. So that would be an illegal campaign contribution, an in-kind contribution to be specific. And the thing is that verification does not only protect myself as a candidate from being scammed, but it also protects people that are hoping to donate to my campaign. So this is one of the few cases in the country that's written as such. And we did find that the RNC actually just filed a similar case actually 24 hours after we put ours in. I do think that it will be going to the Supreme Court, and ultimately this is going to involve the FEC, the FCC, and I do believe it'll help impact legislation for future generations and uphold the sanctity of the election process.
Okay, so let me ask you a two-part question here. Number one, what do you want the FEC to do, the Federal Election Commission, versus the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission? And then secondly, what have you done to reach out to Twitter to say, I know I've seen some of your tweets where you basically say, hey, as the now nominee of the party, the process that you all Twitter laid out says that I should get one of these blue check marks. What's the correspondence that you've had with them, and what do you hope that the FEC and the FCC do?
So I've actually had multiple correspondences with Twitter even before my primary election. I'd say that I've had probably over 12 emails back and forth, even emails where Twitter is saying that they have worked with Ballotpedia and that they will be verifying me, of which they didn't. They actually verified all of my opponents that lost in the primary, and I'm still not verified. But the reason why we're involving both the FEC and the FCC is because when guidelines for campaign came out and when it was written in regards to fair access to from candidates to communications, right? It was only written in place for print, for television, and for radio. Social media has become this new digital platform where there's nothing written in place saying that big tech needs to essentially provide fair platforms for all candidates. And that's why I'm hoping to involve both organizations. We have to get that under control. I know that there's a big issue with election interference moving forward. And I do believe that if we don't get ahead of this curve, that it's going to be my generation and future generations that suffer, because ultimately if these big tech corporations are controlling the information, if they're controlling access that candidates have to the American people, which is through their cell phones or through computers, then they're ultimately fixing elections for future generations.
So can I just bottom line this? If Twitter were to say, okay, we screwed up, we give you the blue check mark, you're verified, are you okay?
No, I still want it written in law. And I say that because I'm not the only one. I know that I happen to have a platform that's allowing me to fight this for other people as well. But I want it to be written into law, because if we basically say it's okay and make an exception, it's never going to solve the problem.
All right, let me shift gears a little bit. Last night, the Commission on Presidential Debates changed the rules. Lindsay and I have a little bit of a disagreement on this, but it now allows the debate moderators to mute the microphones during the initial response and exchange. So just to be clear, it's not throughout the exchange. It's just in that initial part where each candidate has 2 minutes to answer the question. Then once they start going at each other, the microphones won't be mute. The second thing is there's not going to be any foreign policy discussed at the debate, which is just staggering. I mean, I said this on Twitter last night, Anna, that this is not a student council election. This is for President of the United States, and we're not going to talk about foreign policy.
Yeah, we need to hear on foreign policy for one. I can tell you that I don't trust Joe Biden on that, being that he's such a friend of China and other communist regimes around the world. But I will tell you that I don't agree that they're changing those debates, those rules, although I will say that I don't think that I've actually witnessed President Trump be treated fairly at any of the debates. But, being someone that does like to debate, that realizes it's a part of the, the job and the service to the people, I feel like sometimes there are certain things that need to be said to correct lies that people might be making in statements. So if you're going to silence someone's voices, you're essentially silencing the truth, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, if you want to make a jerk out of yourself, and I'm not just saying that, like, if you want to interrupt people and turn voters off, that's what voters have a right to see. I don't agree with it. It's interesting. 50 Cent, who is a rapper, endorsed President Trump yesterday because, as Katrina Pearson, our guest from yesterday, said, he didn't want to become 20 Cent. You were tweeting about Joe Biden's tax policy. How big of a deal do you think this should be in the race? Because it doesn't seem like it's a lot.
I think it needs to be a bigger deal, but what I'm finding is there are a lot of people that have really felt for a long time that the Democrat Party is obviously suppressing the voices and information. So I tell people all the time, maybe you don't like how the president talks, maybe you don't like his Twitter, but look on policy and look what he's voting for. And frankly, I still am surviving on military income with my husband. My husband's active duty. I'm not trying to pay through the nose in taxes. And I think more of the American people need to know that. So that's why I put it in simple language that Joe Biden's policy on taxes sucks.
Yeah. And by the way, I think that he's trying to dial this back and say, oh, if you don't make 400 grand, you're not. I mean, he's going to inch that back. You can't pay for all the stuff that he wants without jacking that tax rate down. Anyway, best of luck on your battle with Twitter and in your race to come. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Newsmax TV is now America's fastest growing cable news channel. We give you the real news you need. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. If you like this video, share it with your friends. Newsmax TV streams live on YouTube for free. Newsmax TV, real news for real people.